are wala ka mining re wala ka industrial or e khone go golisha ditšhaba tša kontle. They are well off. In short, the land in this country was stolen through a legislation. Hence, when the United Nations declared apartheid regime as a crime against humanity, we've got to fight for our ancestral land, bringing back the land. So mining, ya go sona le bo bokone. Ka product ya 1960, ke di beneficiary ja apartheid and colonial extraction. Ke di product ja go utswa kana. You know, it even becomes very difficult to understand why the government of the day is not releasing the Wapedi Port Farm to the rightful owners. You know, really the natives.
This land.
The signing minister will be trusted. So when you go to Wagalatari, on a little hole one, I shouldn't get the whole.
Yes.
Yeah,
true. Like looking at the amount of money that was actually put on the table.
And they were doing it for ticking boxes.
Yeah.
I want to focus. If we were to address youth unemployment, we need multi-purpose centers. You know, it's expensive to make a CV in a rural setup. You've got to pay to go to the work home. If fun for you is
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks. This and that, spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you are behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior.
Lesedi Maphakane. Ntle le go senya sebaka a re tsebisheng goba le re botseng ka Lesedi Maphakane gore na ke mang o tswa mo kae o beela go kae.
No, thanks, Vikano Maimela, for affording us the opportunity. Got this initiative, Elena, Rural Chats podcast. It's a very good initiative. It will be able to expose issues we are faced with in this rural side of the country.
Yeah.
So my name is Lesedi Maphakane, as you mentioned. Ke mo Hangwana mo Bahoshi Pasha. In the Feta Homutu as a local municipality. So ke gola la gana mo ke bela gala mo.
O modudu ya mo a wa re thabela go ba le lena le rena ka ge re le memile re tseba gore go na le tšintšhi le gore re lo ithuta tsona kudu mo go rena baswa ka gore ga re na le tsebo ye tseneletseng kudu mo dilong tša dipolotiki e ke bolela ka dipolotiki ke nambe ke kgwathe ke re kgopela gore botse background ya gago tabeng ya dipolotiki gore na o thomme bjang ke ntho e le gore go hlohleleditše gore o feletse o tsena mo tabeng ya dipolotiki.
No, ke a ke no bontšha pele gore like any other rural person wa motho a gotšego magaeng ke tsene sekolo mola Maphaneng primary school. It was a distance, some few kilometers away from home. We used to work area school. That's where I did my primary education. And my secondary education I did go Selevalo Secondary School. Leona is just closer to Mpane. Mpane is one of the villages next to Malore. So you would understand gore ko morao re be re na le go tsenela dikolo ka mekhukhung
Yeah.
ka gare ga di-structures tse di dirilwego ka matsogo. So batswadi ba rena ba kgona go ka tšea thuto, very important. Then ba kgona go ba le moya wa go ka aga sekolo, and that is significant. Just to gore o kgone go aga sekolo go tloga ga mekhukhu, mapalanka to classrooms, that in itself need courage.
Yes.
That in itself need resilience. So such smaller things ke tsona di re encourage tšeo, and you will understand gore re gotše gape ka batswadi ba e le gore ke di-product tše di lego tša ba under very torture, serious torture ya apartheid. Yeah, ba phetše ka nako throughout. So go na le narration e ba re fa go yona as to how was their life in terms of accessing jobs, how was their lives in terms of participating ka gare ga ikonomi ya nako eo. Go na le melao e le gore e ba gateletše jwalo ka bašomi ba nako eo, ka re ikonomi ka moka e be le ka fase ga malomšweng at that time. So but o tla lemoga gore part of other thing which was critical, the only mode of survival back then, you would understand mining in this side of country, the bushveld complex. O tla lemoga gore mining ka mo thomile 1960.
1960.
Yeah, and 1960 is a period mo e le gore apartheid was at its peak, and minerals were privately owned. E be le melawana e le gona. You would understand at that time blacks were not allowed to own land. Mo e le gore ke product ya 1913 Land Act, formation of homelands. So when this mine started, a very serious cruelty that they inflicted on the black society. So our parents have lived the experience on that. But fast forward, I think Kerochi in an activist family.
Okay.
I've been introduced in the politics. African National Congress, in particular African National Congress with Lake. But prior to that, I was once the student representative council president. Ka Selewalo secondary.
From secondary level.
From secondary level. The student representative council, we tomo the movement, Kosase, interrelated other schools. Got some debates, got school activities. Ratomo walela ratola onyaga go tseba gore marabana. Re amega jwang.
Jwalo ka baswa
ba nako eo. Yeah, so that's how I was introduced into these things. So it's my upbringing and school experience.
Okay.
Yes.
No, ke thabela go kwa se go bana mara ga ke lebeletse matšatši a bolokgono a ke sa bona bana ba le into yona, more especially in secondary level. E ka ba se hlola ke eng gabotse go lebeletse bophelo ba nako e lena le thoma and then le bano.
No, you would understand that a person does not necessarily becomes an activist or a politician or get to be involved in political activities by choice. It's not a choice. It's based on the concrete realities and circumstances that prevails at that time. But coming to your question is that there is this notion Elor wants to deceive the youth of South Africa. Or nowadays, see, towards the 21st century, only this concept of born freeze. they think to get the 1994 breakthrough, it was coincidence. Mo e le gore conscious thomo o se be gona e ka ra ba so ba re more so because there is a deliberate attempt ya go nyaka go erase, to distract and distort the struggle of the blacks and Africans in particular. So one, the curriculum emphasize history, and our black fellows were exceed in terms of having to relate the struggle and what is all this struggle all about. What does it mean about liberation of black people?
Yeah, ke dumelana le wena because le nna ke le mo ke le ke boledishana le nna ga ke na le knowledge e tseneletseng kudu go like history, the political history, and lo jentši kore ara fahlologa. That's why re feletša re dira lo di wrong most of the time, because we don't have like knowledge. So o sa bolela ka taba ya ke kwele o kgwatha taba engwe ya the mines and all that. So mo tabeng ya di mine o bona o kare like the mine tše di leng gona around Atok as a whole, o bona o kare di direlang setšhaba se se kaone.
No, maybe before that, my political life after giving the SRC president, maybe before coming to that, I was introduced in the ranks of the Youth League.
Okay.
I served in the branch. Later on, I was the convener. Yeah, sub-region. I was province. I was the provincial organizer.
Oh.
You know, the likes of Tsepo Matsimela, or the current MEC, Comrade Tony Ratchweni,
yeah.
when he was the coordinator of the province in the Youth League. We served with them, although we were tasked with revival, because we'd understand 2012 when the ANC decided to disband the then National Executive Committee of the ANC Youth League. There was a period of 10 years, a decade or more, where the Youth League has lost its character, values, and organizational principles. So we're tasked with reviving and really reorganizing, reimagining the Youth League. So, and finally, after serving as the provincial organizer, then I was duly elected as the conference started, as the product of revival. Yeah, because by that time, Comrade Joe Maimela, as the national coordinator of the NC Youth League, that today serving the parliament, and various capacities. So that was the journey. We learned a lot, and we can attest to that fact. Now, coming to your question, mining. The history of mining.
Yeah.
You know, because you can't speak mining other factors.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk mining, it touches across various elements. One, mining the customary culture area, which resides more traditional leadership. You can't talk about mining if you cannot talk about land.
Exactly.
And mining is historic. Those are some of the industries, timeline, history, Africa. These are captured and survive the colonial and apartheid kind of modus operandi. So rena mo experience ya rena ya mathomo ke gore for the mere fact that blacks were not allowed to own land, for the mere fact that blacks were not allowed in whatever manner or le series which are the Bill of Rights, for the mere fact that the legislative framework at that time e be dumela gore banna ba basweu do as they wishes, ba bana le exclusive rights ja ownership ya mining. So ba fihlile mo, they exploited our people, they brutally extract these minerals ka ntle le leshoko, ka ntle le go coexist le community. It was just one man show, and we are a product of that. 1960, we may be talking about 3 generations now. 3 generations now. And if you look particularly in our area, the first mine to arrive here is now what we call Bokoni Platinum Mine. But by then it was Anglophone. Think one of the prospecting. Because you know Anglo game where the multinational companies legacy it's very negative. So we will unpack more. Fast forward towards democratic dispensation after 1994. No. Black people must really participate mining, from ownership, from the opportunities. In 2002, Parliament tomo wana gore go ba bohlokwa go bea melawana ya go swana le bo MPRDA, ke ge o thoma go tla after constitution we tla taba gore how do we then speak to blacks to really have ownership of land. So it's quite an interesting subject. So rena we had circumstances. One of the circumstances from political point of view, from activism point of view, re situation a high rate of unemployment. Re situation ya underdeveloped, which is a common feature. If you check abroad and across, maybe in about 4 provinces in the country, you are Limpopo, you are Mpumalanga, you are Gauteng, you are Northwest, you are Northern Cape, you are Northwest. Rural areas, only the common feature. It's more about making more profit at the expense of the people. So we stood firm to say, this is what, as a generation, and as rural people, we should be able to defend our natural resources, have land and mineral claim, to really redress the injustice that was faced by our parents, and also take advantage of the democratic project. So that's what inspired us to really mobilize communities around ensuring that the mines are compliant, and we give effect to the legislative framework that seeks to accelerate change in the country.
So normally, do you think like currently, the chances still or like like unemployment rate, is it dropping, or in terms of like or more community ya brand? O bona ka re baswa ba bereka or ba no ya dikolong then ba boya ba dula ka gae?
No, it's not only taba ya Atok fela. Unemployment is an international phenomenon, but within South African context, the palo of now lately, they realize we are sitting on about a ticking tempo. South Africa is a population of 60 million people approximately, if my memory serves me well. And we are sitting at an unemployment that is more or less 30%, if that is a genuine figure. So it tells you a lot. But there are many factors contributing to that.
Yeah.
Firstly, is that post 1994 negotiations, and now 30 years after democracy, it was clear that one, were unable, the government of the day was unable to deal decisively with what our forebears seek to achieve, to turn around the structure of the economy. The structure of the economy still reflect, racism. The structure of the economy is still white in color. You look at all commanding highs of the economy. Land is still in the hands of the white. The land reform programs, land redistribution, the security of tenure or land tenure.
Yeah.
You understand or so that also comes to the nature of education system that we're having.
Oh yeah.
You might understand or we bantu education. But even where we are seated, we are still having decolonized education. A skill match. We are now on school. I want a little program. We can natural talent.
Yeah.
We can't all become engineers.
Engineers or doctors.
We can't all become
that,
doctors. On a little talent, the curriculum. So that was the system that would create unemployment, because I hono actually economy arena like a PC
Yeah.
but it owes also to the global dynamics with regard to that. Basically the foreign direct investments and all that.
Yeah.
So we are still very far because we are still controlled. As a total liberation.
Yeah.
And we want to sign a high level of unemployment. We want to sign or those who are entrusted with responsibility for total liberation become something else. Corruption.
Yeah, corruption.
And you also look at the high level of violence in society, the gender-based violence, the levels of criminals. South Africa is becoming another country.
Yeah.
You look at the level of murders rate.
Yeah.
You also look at the lifespan as well, the mortality rate of children and so forth. So we're still having all sorts of social ills, and that is due to the fact that our political economy, is not liberated.
Yeah, no, ke le kwa ke le kwishisha le ge lore go ngwe le fela le ntahlanyana mara ke a le tshwara cause wa bona ge re lebeletse like rena baswa ba gone bualo, we are more focused on the entertainment part more than learning.
Yes.
E ka ba seo le gopola gore ka kgopolo ya lena le bona gore di hlola ke eng lo di bualo ka teng?
No, when you analyze society, you must analyze society from class perspective. No, Karl Marx was one of those people while were tools to analyze a society.
Okay.
Young way one way the ideas of the ruling class is the ruling ideas. What you see now manifesting on youth, it's something that is planned behind the scene. Youth must be defocused. Where do you defocus them? You don't give them correct information. One. Secondly, you disarm them. You defocus them. How do you defocus them? Today we prioritize soccer.
Yeah.
It's all about soccer, and we want to give it or no, it keeps youth outside drugs and all that.
Outside drugs, but then
That
we
is
are not focusing on something
critical issues. How do we then liberate ourselves? In the African context, young people are no longer taking politics serious.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's a narrative where a black man cannot govern. A black man is not worthy to have good environments.
Yeah.
To live happy like any other person.
People, yeah.
Is a secondary human being. It's not created from same God. You know, it's those reasons. So, secondly, the environment that young people find themselves in. If the economy is not growing, there is high level of unemployment.
Yeah.
Those who take initiatives to go to school, you know, in South Africa of now lately, you know, we are thankful of the inroads that the National Student Financial Aid Scheme has done. You know, it has produced a lot over the years. Though is a drop in the ocean. Mara ge ngwana lebela gore no ke berekile boima ke sena le accommodation ke sena le dibuka coming from a very destitute family ke tswa ko sekolong ga gone mesebetsi then they fall into what they start to be very stressful they become violent and ba thoma gore no re imetswe
Ba
re
jela
tla dirang.
drugs.
Yes, then they start to have anger ga ba bona batho ba bona ba mmuso a o lebelela in the media o na le narrative gore blacks are inherently corrupt e ba losisha hope they are not well motivated and when you check or na di parents tša bona di tswa kae mathata a ba bile go ona a go sana parental care mo e le gore bashimana ga ba sa rutwa gore a o no tlogela ngwana you must take care of the kids and all that e nngwe ke distortion of our culture you know we are living another culture democracy clearly all sorts of freedoms which if not correctly managed by the state which is not correctly managed in our communities we start to lose our identity we start to lose our moral values then ke mo ka ba thoma gore and the only activity e ba te thabishago ke alcohol the only activity e ba te thabishago ka yona ke taba ya you know all sorts of
sports
of things that we
most
may
of the
talk
time,
about
like,
so hence you know teenage pregnancies at
I-
the
I-
rise
yeah.
so are le conscious ya gore what is happening yes and the social media again the technology because can also be very dangerous
ke be ke sa re ke tlo kgwatha yona ke-
e
ke
tliša
re le-
globalize information e tšhabeša ka kuru and go dependa gore go tšhabeša information e
e
jwang.
jwang
And who are the role models entertainment industry e thoma go fa batho gore society e adopte those norms today re bolela ka batho ba e lego gore ba control
Yeah,
you know ke di influencers ka di-talente tše ba di filwego
Yeah.
mara that must not also is ke a re botša gore di-gains tše di lego gona re kgone go di-advance tša thuto tša gore re kgone go phela ga botse so there are many factors tše di laetša go baswa gore ba ba le mathata mara in the main ke gore re palela ko go godiša economy ya rena yes
re sa bolela ka go godiša ikonomi ya rena a re kgwatheng taba ya ye nngwe e le gore e ile ya no direga goba e sa direga ke sa tsebe ya illegal mining e ka ba e affectile bjang this rural area
look illegal mining yona it's one of those issues if we are to go back to mining issue look go na le di-regulation tše di lego gona in the country gore re bolela ka sustainable development speaks to how do we take care of environment as and when we mine secondly is how do we coexist with communities mo e lego gore before o fa license go bile le molawana wa MPRDA gore no swantse o dire your social labor plan your environmental management plan the social labor plan speaks to issues ya gore o create di-learnership tše kae mine community development what infrastructure projects you'll come with and o tlo thuša jwang boragwebo potlana ba mono gae mara I am telling you today that our proper enforcement because the MPRDA is telling us that government has relegated the mineral wealth to the private sector, particularly multinational companies. All those JSE listed companies, majority of them mining, they're multinationals, they're from foreign land. And government follow yona ka MPRDA with a view that they will regulate it, because the custodian of minerals is state. But you know, it's shortfall. It's shortfall for many reasons. One, there is no capacity. Mines are doing as they are wishing. Now, because the rural areas all sorts of social ills, or what are other alternatives? For instance, Atok is Merinsky and UG2. UG2 is to a certain extent chromatite. You know, now we've got abundance, and the information is like mining, like industrial, or they are well off. Because what you see as empires, Europe, slowly, information is more so now we must participate.
Okay, like a questionnaire like in terms of the ownership of the mine. I mean the history of the mine, lente occupy we understand the land tenure system in South Africa. And in rural areas like the land is owned by like the traditional leaders and all that, like Bagam Shat and all that. So tabenya bokoni platinum mine. Like Arthalo se jorna lente longer the mine you occupy. Igabaile lente longer ibeli amang. Rutlejong or mine can understand about 12 or by discover the minerals here, about 12 or by America, as you mentioned, the Anglo-Americans and all that. So the Carthal says, I chamber occupied this land before, because you know there's no way that this was just a vacant land, about inside Mogoyon and all that.
Yeah, no. You know, land question, it's very fundamental. It can boils down to what we call land dispossession. It's historic. That's why we call no. You know, former president Jacob Zuma. Alogo Parlamento felar no. Matatarna to milere revolaga drometaris. The kepeja matach 1652. Because land becomes a very important asset. It becomes very important economic asset. Anything is a uneonaga. Molfasi, I think it's the entire world, it's animals. You will never find where a particular portion of land is owned by a donkey or a horse. So if you don't own a land, it's as much as you are an animal. And development happens on the land. So the land dispossession started after the 1910 union building, after Anglo-Boer War. We are going to constitute a parliament, a white-only parliament, the Afrikaner and the white. And one of the things that they wanted to empower their people, their constituencies that they serve, through the state machinery at that time, which is the apartheid state machinery, or the state machinery wanna go. We must own the land. The indigenous people. Now, how do we own the land? We are going to take this land through legislation, allow. Then they started to promulgate what we call 1913 Act. Or no, a smaller percentages, it will be given to black people. Black people must go over Pitlagan as pigs. Country again, homelands. Skukune is a former homeland. And it's not only that, it went further on after 1913. What like about the Group Areas Act, and so forth and so on. So in short, the land in this country was stolen through a legislation. Hence, when the United Nations declared apartheid regime as a crime against humanity, among other things, they used very brutal legislative framework to take land.
Okay.
So they took land ka racially based legislative process. And you can reference it from previously former President Kgalema Motlanthe, the Speaker of Parliament. I'm a fellow what we call high-level panel on assessing the acceleration of fundamental change. Gorna melao e re passitšego go tloga 1994 up to date with regard to land reform, to bring back the land rights, to bring back the security of tenure of South Africans. How far are we? Are they really effecting the change that we are looking for? Are they redressing the injustice of the past? So land was stolen. Hence, in the political cycles, you'd understand when our forebears met, 1955, and not only that, when they adopted the Freedom Charter, but even prior from African, the Freedom Charter, the struggle of liberation of black people was always the struggle of land. Your PAC, Pan-African Congress, but isolate my boo Africa, the motherland. So that is the struggle of to restore our dignity, to restore the status of being like animals, not owning the land. We've got to fight for our ancestral land, bringing back the land. So mining, ya was on a level bukone. Got product there 1960. Ki beneficiary ja apartheid and colonial extraction. Ki product ja ujuana. And there is nothing, and it's still the case. Today when you sit here, you look at the mine next to Bukone mine. For instance, like Samango. The farm vendor felt is still in the hands of Samango. Why? Is the beneficiary of the apartheid system. So land is stolen. It has been stolen. But through 1994 breakthrough, land that we occupy. I want to clarify this narrative, my brother. Land does not necessarily belongs to Magoshi. Magoshi is custodian. Land belongs to the people. But the current setup, we are a communal land. A communal land means we are a land under custodianship of a chief. But who is the owner of the land now as it stands? It's the state.
The state.
It's the state. It's the state land. Okay? But I will tell you, there are many debates in the country now, or ongoing discussions in terms of changing the property clause of the Constitution, or it must favor land ownership pattern in the country. There is ongoing debate of what we call land expropriation without compensation. So we still face that challenge. Land is stolen, still in the hands of the whites. And what do we mean? Let alone the communal land. That's why we come at the food security. Or no, if you take those commercial farms, would not be able to feed the country. But there are two things in the land reform regime or land reform legislation. Is the land redistribution, is the land tenure, and the restitution. Hence, by 1998, apply. And it happens here in our areas like many other chiefs. Let's say 1998 cut-off date, reapply title deeds. Mara certain communities opted for monetary compensation. Instead of the title deeds.
I can still say for sure 98 80 to 90% of the people in this area, for sure, they've never seen what is called a title deed. Abatsmen to a title deed or a bonagala illusion. So, do you think, or are we going in the right direction of actually getting the land back in terms of like us white people or the rightful owners of the land? Are we really? Do you think already efforts are they really leading us to direction out of land back?
Look, it's all about the state intervention
Okay.
to transform society, to make it live better, to make it have opportunities. You can always use the state machinery.
Yeah.
Because it's the state machinery that would, make laws, make legislations that will address all the injustices. The reality of the matter is that we are still very far. Look, blacks were not allowed, even in apartheid regime, to own the land. You know, the version of Khoshi Kholo, around 1930s, through the missionaries, some of the farms, they are now collectively known as Bapedi pot farms. Development Trust. From a rural perspective, from a communal land perspective, I would say before maybe we may speak about the commercial farms, there is nothing to give people of Wagalatari, to give people of Malomani, Mafian, to give them Zukehat. There are no contradictions. So we are saying the first line of departure with regard to land reform, give the people their land. Before we may be talking about the commercial aspect of it, that was stolen and they are profitable lands. That's where these people are making money. So you'd understand when our former homeland, maybe that perspective is important. Why would those people land? Land because exploration. They didn't know what this is a mineral rich land. That's why even today, the land ownership pattern climate you look at Mavlol, and so forth and so on. But after exploration, I told me So for that fact, then we are saying communal land ownership, the security of tenure and all those things. This one already back to the people.
The rightful owners. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, can understand already we might be looking at like a situation a longer. Looking at the rate at which we're trying to actually get the land back.
Correct.
So, okay, yes, they came, Anglo-American came, they occupied the land, they carried on with their operations, and part of the community engagement, because I believe that even if they didn't take the black people very serious, but surely there was some sort of like stakeholder engagement where communities were set down and then back then. But according to you, most of corporations that come and occupy and operate in certain land, they would actually promise the host community certain economic benefits. So according to you, is the mine actually benefiting the host communities in this regard?
Okay. No, your question is in two folds.
Yes.
The first one is the rate
Yes.
at which.
The land.
Look, currently we are sitting with a backlog.
Yeah.
The Commission on Land, the Commission on Land Restitution, capacity, processor the land claims 1998. On a backlog. over approximately 79,000 applications, land claims. It is tagile. Some of them is tagile ka the overlapping rights where communities fight over who is the
who's the
rightful owner or occupant, overclaiming, and many other challenges, capacity or research, or history, or funding issues as well. So, Elijah, you need a lot of money to settle the claims, and at the rate that we are going with, it may take so many years. I don't think we will be even able to see the light of the
witness
day.
that,
The title deed. You know, it even becomes very difficult to understand why the government of the day is not releasing the Wapedi Port Farm to the rightful owners. You know, JLO really the natives.
This land.
The Sinogi minister will be trusted. But now, and that is a challenge, because before we even ask question, answer your question, what becomes significant? You look at Royal Maphakane.
Yeah.
You know, Royal Maphakane is one of those nations that have advanced
Very successful.
in terms of infrastructure, in terms of, education, how they support their
And
nation.
I would say that the companies, the operator there, they actually benefiting the host community.
They benefit the host community because the point of departure is that you negotiate the favorable terms when you put a lease agreement. You know, because what is the relationship between a mining company and communities? It starts by the rental part, the lease agreement, the surface rights. You know, and how do they? It's market related. It's market related. But you need an evaluator level, or no, you can pay this 79,000 per annum. But if we own the land, we would be saying, you operate here in our terms.
Yes.
Okay? But now the lease agreement are signed by the state minister. Mona Musho, who negotiate the pillar one of tender diesel. One of tender ya tracking. And I want to go release it because why? They are the bargaining tools. You know? They are the bargaining tools. So it affects the local communities very badly. Because what is a typical service lease rental when you own that land as a community? What does that mean? It means one would be telling you, we have interest in the mine value chain. We've got interest on participating on your drilling operations, your mining operation, your support. The equipments or whichever way, we want to participate there. The entire mine value chain. You can have set-asides, you can have ring-fenced projects. And it also goes to what we call equities, the stake that a community can hold in mining. So coming to these communities, I will tell you the framework that changed or reversed the colonial extraction or the apartheid extraction was in 2002 when they usher in your MPRDA Section 100, the mining charter. And one must say it on the onset. The assessment of MPRDA as the legislative framework, it's not in favor of communities. We understand to a certain extent, we will have a paradigm shift. You see, coupled with black economic empowerment. Mo elore re produce some few billionaires. KBEE, your Cyril Ramaphosa, your Patrice Motsepe, your Sagima Kozoma, the Bridget Hadewes of this world. Okay? The BEE, how these people agreed with private sector. Which is useless to me, that BE. So I'm saying that affected the local communities very badly. They don't have the voice. Exploitation continues. Pollution continues. And they are loose. These government functionaries that are given responsibility to really regulate the mining industry.
As you were touching on the BE fact, that's a very interesting factor. but then, you know, a lot of we touch it in a more broad way in terms of like looking at the national beneficiary of the so-called BEE.
Correct.
So during the times Jabo Atlas and all that, I think the initiative for BEE was implemented around Atok, right? So there were like certain terms that were agreed upon between the mine and the community, where we would see you know, entrepreneurs from the community getting contracts in the mine, you know, helping the mine to operate and all that. Yeah, what is your view on that? What really happened in that situation?
Look, this mine was owned by ANCYL.
Anglo, yes.
And through the transition of the BEE intervention, the so-called Anarok transactional deal.
Yes.
Because, you know, one thing is that we were unfortunate. The untimely death of our late chief, Ngwano Opri Pasha. It really worried because each year 20 years of the struggle, protracted litigation pattern, and we did not have voice. Malrational ownership of land. Then Rai BEE deal, got the Pella one, the Canadian companies.
Yes, yes.
By Viakan. It was not well negotiated. Because remember, from 2002, 2003, we lost the chief. And there were so many mushrooming structures. You know, even today, when you check and you want to relate to what we call Atok activism with regard to mining, one again or no, to a certain extent, you know, some people who wanted to get tenders in the mine, which is not true, but it happened, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why we disassociate ourselves with such tendencies of reducing our struggle as a struggle of getting tenders in the mine. It's not about that. Look, we did not negotiate quite well. Anglo American gave us, donated 150 million for local community to participate. That's why we shares. When the mine was going to can maintenance. Those were the products of what we call Anarok. In the 150 million, 47 million, where we are in what we call Anarok Community Participatory Trust. And 79 million was used to acquire 2.1% shares in Atlanta.
Yes.
And the 24 million was retained in the trust. That's why when you go to Wagalatari,
Yes.
Yeah,
true. Like looking at the amount of money that was actually put on the table.
And they were doing it for ticking boxes.
Yeah.
I want to focus. If we were to address youth unemployment, we need multi-purpose centers. You know, it's expensive to make a CV in a rural setup. You've got to pay to go to the home. If fun for you is you get my point. So we did not negotiate very well. Do you know why? But if you teachers cabal, those who were principals at that time, and agro was in a civilization alone, we're having you know, high level of illiteracy. People did not have interest. The only thing even work for Mushomo, I'm a school give up PTV. Or go over RDO or their training. Okay? But then we did not negotiate well. Those who were in charge of negotiations, while level or okay, we want certain tender opportunities for ourselves. What vague issues, the lease terms, how we deal with recruitment, employment opportunities, how we deal with making local people to participate in the mine value chain. What are the benefits that are accrued to mine operation? We did not negotiate very well. Today, the Anarok Trust funds, 24 million, they're still there. We still have a challenge. Investor into the communities who could have done better in terms of early childhood development, the crèche. You know, toys, you know, there is literally minimal attention from government point, and that was going to assist us. It's not only that. Sometimes a guy as a mine engineering, maybe a social worker or then grants. They struggle with accommodation, so forth and so. So coming to your question here, local participation with regard to employment, with regard to procurement systems, my brother was still very far. In the Atlanta period, even now, as in African rainbow minerals, we don't have literally a voice there.
Yeah.
And it's a cause of concern. That's why we started with what? With the reawakening of the sleeping masses program. That's the genesis of what we termed Atok economic revolution. In a way was to mobilize young people. In a way was to give conscience to this community that to get a tender in a mine, it's not a favor. You don't have to pay money. To get employment in the mining company, it's not about chocho. We deserve these things. You know, we must be prioritized. We are covered by law, but it's manipulated. It's manipulated, and unfortunately, that voice was not enough to really mobilize this population for that cause. But I still believe it's genuine.
Okay. Yeah, so okay, I understand that in a way you actually touched on the idea of like the trust, the community trust that were actually implemented during that period, and probably the training of you know, like find skills to the unskilled people in terms of I understand sometimes they affect the education level of the people, because they would just be like, oh no, there's a training center and all that, I would just go there and then maybe man train certain skills and all that. So na train the learner miner, the skills artisan and all that. But it looks like by the look of things, all those people that were given skills during that period, they don't seem to be like getting employment in the very same company.
Exactly.
So what could be the root cause of that? You train someone, you bring someone, you train them, you give them the skill, but then you still put them at home. You go back, you take someone got the same skill.
Exactly.
You outsource the same skill that you given to this certain individual. So tabam yona ge re lebeletse ka address ka mokgwa mohuta mang.
A very good question. Fundamentally, you know, it's faceted, goes in phases. Like in any way, the first strategy among others, or one of the strategies, is poverty alleviation. A war against poverty, it deals with what you call skills and training development. You know, that's the genesis of a person to be employable. That's how you deal with unemployment, because poverty and unemployment are interrelated. They goes together. But what becomes a problem is, do we have a training systems, the skills development systems that have a skills match? That's why intervention of the state, really what you call the sectoral education training authorities, that deals with all the sectors of the economy.
The CETAs,
In mining, you've got your Mining Qualification Authority. In construction, we've got construction CETA. In agriculture, we've got agri-CETA. So the problem is, they became a milking cows. That's the genesis of the problem. It becomes a milking cows by mining companies, the HRDs, the Human Resource Departments, and those who are in MQAs. They started to issue what we call community grants. They don't train for employment. They train to eat them, to chow the money.
Especially with again the tax
issues, skills levy, and all that. So now you train for your workforce, fine, but you also have supplementary programs. Your portable skills, which is part of what you call social labor plans. You know, but in the main, no, I would train 200 young people, and I'm not going to put anything in order for them to be absorbed back to the labor market. You know, that is a problem, and it's something that our government is unable to look at. And all these various summits that have been there, and that dialogue must ensue, because it's happening across across. It's a problem, my brother. So the correct model would be that we train you and we'll be able to absorb you. That must be the objective, the ultimate goal of any skills training initiative that seeks to deal with poverty and unemployment. So it's an unfortunate state of affairs. Yeah, and it's corrupt.
Yeah.
It's corrupt.
Yeah, so looking at how things are, dilo tse ka moka o di hlalositseng go ipontšha gabotse gore o ka fela gore situation e re iponang re le ka gare ga yona, it's almost like it's the community and the private sector, which is the mining company and all that. Ne? So in all that, we get to understand that the role of like our local government and our traditional leaders in terms of like dealing with such situations, because it looks like in most cases it's the fight between the community and the private company. Of which when it comes to other things, the concern at development, the manager is always about magoshi, maspala and all that. But then I've never seen maspala on a mass meeting where community employment, but maspala sure, and all that. It's always us against the private company.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. No, that is what we call cooperative governance spirit. Look, we have that challenge. When you check the state of province address of the premier, the current premier, Popira Matuba, when you look at the state of district address of Mayenabahula, also the municipal address, mining features in.
Yes.
Mining is the bedrock of our economy,
Yes,
in
true.
Limpopo. Contribution of mining to the gross domestic product of the country, the significance of mining in terms of job creation, partnership between the private sector and public
Yes. Yeah.
becomes very important. But even from a legislative point
of view,
in municipal way of developing communities, we are talking about integrated development plan.
Yes, yeah.
And with regard to mining, we are talking to social labor plan. And in social labor plan, we've got the human resource component. So they are intertwined. One, when a mining company is applying for a license, the legislative process that should be unfollowed, among others, one, is that the mining company must be able to consult. The notion of nothing about us without us comes in. That's what the legislation provides for. You need to consult who? One, you need to consult the communities, which are the directly affected people,
yes.
directly impacted and affected people. You need to consult the land claimants. Land claimants. You need to consult the municipality and to certain extent, not certain extent, the traditional leadership.
Yes. Yeah.
Just to name but a few. So that's a link, because for a social labor plan to be approved, you need a recommendation of the or approval letter or recommendation letter from the municipality.
Yes.
Because it means the municipality must ensure that this social labor plan is formulated in such a way that it will speak to the challenges of unemployment.
Yeah.
It will advance job creation. Not only that, the economic cluster departments, your Limpopo economic development, your rural development, your DMR and so forth and so on, still have that responsibility from government perspective. The traditional leadership from communal land ownership perspective, being the custodians of the land, because Hoshiga's child.
Yeah.
So we've got to be ensuring as communities, or we forward a proposal on the SLP that will create jobs.
Yeah.
And it's not only mine employment. We've got to diversify. We've got to have small industries.
Yeah.
Like project the Bokoni poultry project.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
that's the spirit. You need to have the project
Yeah, for agriculture.
because we have seen, we have learned a lot on the closure of the mine. You know,
yeah.
this area becomes a ghost town.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes a ghost town. So it's a problem.
Yeah.
And that goes also with many other factors, the spatial planning, land use, and
land
all
use.
that. So government and private sector coexist.
Coexist,
They
yeah.
are interrelated. There are regulations that speaks to that. So there is no way. But because only negligence, there is no political will to a certain extent. People are confused as to what is to be done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over that gap where you find over violence. Skukune region has been declared one of the poorest regions
Yeah.
in the country. Okay, for years, and we have seen a lot of violence, which manifested in many forms, and interruption of the system, the mining, the mineral complex, through a very big voice of illegal mining. It happened so random.
Yeah,
so kagabagala those ills because are one of the fruits, the regulation of this mineral resource.
Wrong and Karim. Probably when you're speaking about the role of like municipality, I think the plan is just good on the paper, because I feel like in terms of like when you implement something in your IDP, for example, there should be some sort of like a monitoring and evaluation strategies at the end. You'd say, okay, get global project this for so many years, and these are the things that I need to achieve in so much period. But it looks like but then at the end of the day, nobody cares what employ about 10,000 from this community. Did it happen? How do they monitor that?
Brother, I don't undermine, Figilem Balloon at one stage. I think it was in a funeral somewhere in Northwest. Well, you can't take a teacher. As a driver train or a luxury train. I'm not undermining the teacher's profession. It has done wonderfully well. We are product of teachers' profession. But this couple, when these people was no jamu, my teacher Raila capture the state opportunities that came with state power by dress a block. Then they become they become they become to be deployed. You take a person here who are teaching, LED manager. Doesn't know what local economic development is about. Then they are unable to really formulate what we call local economic development strategies. That will speak to, and in most cases, those things are consultants.
They don't
the
do
current
them,
situation, local municipalities or so much of the work
is done through
consultants. So that's the ill of the public service sector. Incompetent people occupies very strategic positions that would effect transformation. And unfortunately, they're doing it for political reasons. And we find ourselves where we are. Find ourselves where we are.
I so wish ngeberbile le letšatši ka moka, cause go na le lo tšintši tše le gore le na le tšona tše le gore re tloga re di hloka as community members. Kore go na le lo tšintši tše le gore as like magoši, go na le lo tšintši tše le gore a sa tšwa re ba ka no ba re di tseba mara re tšhaba go di dira right.
Correct.
Or maybe because go na le lo tša go swana le bo di jojo, like ba ka no tsena ba re no I swara sokshi.
Correct.
Ska botša community ya gago about this and this and this. It's still possible, because now I feel like magoši at some point ke bona le gore ba re etile pele, right? Before batho ba tsena ba ka se re kgobakanye ba re mola re kgobakane ba re no tlang investor shiksh or a private business shi ya tla e tlo dira ntho so ba tlo re botsa after agreement ya bona le bona.
Yeah, that is a problem. That's why we speak of the concept of free, prior, informed consent. It's an international standard of indigenous people to say, affected people should decide their fate. They must know everything about their life. It's very wrong. Because that's the starting point. You don't negotiate on behalf of the people without the mandate. It's uncalled for.
Yeah.
No, so there is a need. Yeah, or a investor awareness about that.
Yes, stakeholder
In fact,
engagement
it's
of
the
some sort.
people that must allow for such a particular process to undertake. But I will tell you, my brother, there is a still a lot of work to be done
Yeah.
in terms of mobilizing young people in particular for defense of their future, to defend the free, prior, and informed consent, because it's important. That's why today we are sitting here.
Yeah.
At the initial stages of African rainbow minerals, when it comes in 2022, people heard about that in the news, in the papers. There's never been
Proper
any form
stakeholder
of
engagement.
engagement with local communities. It
communities,
happens in the
yeah.
corridors, in the boardrooms, and here we are having challenges.
Yeah.
We are crying, or no, the mine is not in our favor, it's not employing local people,
Yeah.
and all that. So that's the challenge of not taking local people on board. But other than that, we are also disorganized. There are many things that contributed to this disorganization of communities.
Yeah.
And mining companies thrive in disunity. It thrives in divisions.
Yeah.
They master it. And we are a product of that.
Yeah.
We are a product of the poverty levels. We are hungry. Hungry masses, while a program that they believe on, a cause. Because that also contributed by the local leaders.
Yeah.
Local communities entrust a particular leader to lead a cause and mobilize. I feel that many say you are limpamba.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, true that.
Sa limpamba, so say na polokwane.
Yeah,
Say
yeah,
say wala tomorrow wo tja re na go tlhale mo.
Obviously.
A re tishije mo meletelo re na go tlhale.
Yeah.
Dilo jo di fele ke badimo ba gago.
Yeah.
But this person has been elected, and it polarized society. The divisions that has to do with Bogoshi and all that.
Yeah.
So center does not hold. Who listens to who? Society get to be not mobilized. And in any event, mining cannot really employ everyone.
yeah. No,
Yeah, true
that's
that.
true.
Okay? So we need to have a strategy that will say, how do we take people who are full, body location? How do you take people who are carpentry, really entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
bricklaying,
Yeah.
and many other things? Because as about to come metric,
Yeah, exactly.
one of the challenges to labor market entry, and it's something that we must fight for. I think it's the struggle that is ongoing. The issue of experience
Yeah.
when you enter the
The
labor
labor
market.
market,
Yeah.
yeah. They'll tell you about
The,
the
the,
experience.
the significance of
Experience.
metric and all that. You see, so we still need to, to go back to our people. All is not, we can't perish. We still need to build that conscience. We still need to seek for unity of our people.
Yeah.
And maybe if we have time, ours to speak more about the solutions.
Yeah.
What I think should be done in the circumstances and as part of the way forward from policy and legislative point of view. When you speak of all the mining legislation,
Yeah.
your NEMA, your MPRDA, your mining charter discussions and
I think
all that.
we would really need a day for that
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
really need to find
Unfortunately,
a solution.
we don't have
Okay.
time.
From policy point of view, your TKLA, and the case law as well. those cases that sought to really defend the spirit of tenure of local people, the land ownership, and to also protect the right to be consulted. So there is a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And how do we reclaim, our land and mineral right? So those are many things that we should be dealing with.
Yeah.
Those are many things that we should be dealing with.
Mr. Maphakane, ben ka thabela go ba le nako e ntšhi kudu le lena because there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah.
So re leboga go ba le lena mo Rural Chats podcast. We really thank you and thank you.
No, re na le mmereko, we must take it beyond this
No, we
podcast.
should call you again.
Correct. No, thanks.
But the implementation is.
Thanks, Mr. Maimela. Sure.
No.
Hey, tada.